In this video, I'm going to go over my top 10 meme coins for this cycle, and I'll be ranking them based off risk reward ratio. So how much reward they have based off how risky they are to hold. And I'll also include market cap targets for what I believe they'll reach for the top of the cycle. And yeah, let's get into it and count down from top 10 to number 1 at the very end. So first of all, my number 10 spot is Pudgy Penguins. So if you're not familiar with this token, it's the Pangu token, right? It's the 8th biggest meme coin, and it's currently at a market cap of almost 700 million. And basically, this is the token from a very successful NFT first company that have then went and launched their own token. And I have a risk 4 out of 10, and I chose 4 out of 10 because it's one of the top meme coins. So therefore, it's in the top 10 meme coins. So therefore, it doesn't have a lot of risk associated with it because it's one of the biggest tokens and it has such a strong community backing, and it's already a successful NFT company. And then in terms of reward, I have a 7 out of 10 because I feel like an $18 billion market cap is reasonable for this coin. So the reason I have a 7 out of 10 is because it's already at 700 mil, and some of the coins I have later on, I believe I have higher price targets for them. And I don't feel like it's as undervalued as other coins, relatively speaking. So let's move on to number 9, which is Dogecoin. You might be thinking, why do I have Dogecoin as number 9? Like it doesn't make sense. Well, I'm ranking by risk reward ratio. So I don't think Dogecoin will, will outperform like any of the coins on this list. I don't think it'll outperform Pudgy Penguins, but there's less risk associated with owning Dogecoin because it's the number 1 meme coin. So it would be very unlikely in a cycle where meme coins do well that Dogecoin doesn't go up. You'll never see that happen, and that's why it's low risk. That's why I have risk 1 out of 10, because it's the lowest risk meme coin you can possibly own. I don't think I need to go over what it is, because everyone knows Dogecoin. And you have limited explosive potential. It's a safe hold. And I have a target of 175 billion. It's currently at 25, so that would be like a 7x from these prices, which is not explosive as other meme coins, but you don't have a lot of risk holding it. And it's still a decent reward, 5 out of 10, which is honestly a good coin to own. But I think the coins I have later on are better risk reward ratios. And at the end of the video, I have a chart where I visually represent all the coins so you can see it in a visual format. So 8, I have the coin Lohei. This might be a coin that you haven't actually heard of. So basically, Lohei is the number 1 coin on Sui. And, as you can see right here. And I believe that this coin is a higher risk play, but it also has very high upside, especially if we're bullish Sui, which I am, and I have a video on talking about Sui. So I think the number 1 meme coin on Sui has a lot of upside if the narrative hits, which it likely will, but it still has a lot of risk with it because it's only a 30 million market cap coin, while everything else on this list is 100 mil plus. So this one has the most risk, but it also has a lot of upside. So my target is currently 3 billion for this coin. So a reward I have 9 out of 10 because that would be like 100x, right? And basically if the number 1 meme coin on Sui becomes a strong narrative, then this coin can go ridiculously high. So if you want more of a higher risk but also high reward play, I think Lohei is a great one for that, and that's why it's number 8. So 7th, I have the coin Gigacoin, and this is one of on the larger side, but it's not as big as some of these other meme coins. I think it's in the top 20, top 30 meme coins. So for this one, I think it's medium risk, and it's relatively high reward. So I have 5 out of 10, as explained earlier. It's one of the top meme coins. I think if we start going down like below, some of these like 100 mil coins, then it starts getting more risky. But I think anything over 100 mil is relatively not that risky to own, right? Like these are all like the big established ones. like the Mogs, the Dogs, the GigaChat, all in the same category of being not too risky. And I have a separate video on why I like this coin. And I believe a market cap of 12 billion is reasonable for this coin, which currently sits at 155 million. So I think there's a lot of upside for this coin. And for reward, I have 8 out of 10 because I think, that would be basically, right, 155 to 12 billion is like 80, 75x, whatever the number is, but it's a good return. But this one does have more risk than, something like Pudgy Penguins or Dogecoin, obviously. Number 6, I have Bonk. So Bonk is the number one meme coin on Solana for now. It does have some competition with Farcoin to remain number one, currently at 1.3 billion. And I think this one's a relatively low risk play, again, because it's top 10 in terms of meme coins, actually, top 5, right? But more specifically because Solana is also a safe play. So it makes sense that Bonk, the number one meme coin on Solana, is also relatively safe to own, right? If Solana goes up, you're not really going to see Bonk going down. It basically acts as leverage Solana. So because Solana will likely do well, Bonk will also do well. So that's why I have a low risk of 3 out of 10. And reward, I have 7.5 because, it's already at over a billion in market cap. So you're not going to be expecting, crazy multiples from here. But I do think a 30 billion market cap is reasonable, which would basically be a 25x, 20, something like that. But I have it as number 6 because of the low risk associated with this coin, right? Like the returns on Giga is higher, but it carries more risk with it. So number 5, I have Dog, which is the number one meme coin on Bitcoin. And this is also one of the top meme coins, almost 300 mil in market cap. And I think the narrative has a lot of upside. So that's why I have reward 8.5 out of 10, because there's a lot of liquidity in BTC. And if that liquidity can start moving over into runes, then the runes can go extremely high. And Dog is the number one rune on Bitcoin. So I believe the rewards can be very high for this coin. I have a market cap of 20 billion as a target, which would be, like a 66x, 70x from here, because it's currently at 280 million. And I do think it has slightly higher risk than Bonk, because Bonk is like top 5 tokens, and Solana, meme coins on Solana is a narrative that is already so embedded in the Solana ecosystem, while meme coins on Bitcoin are newer. But with that risk, you also have more of a reward. And overall, this combination of risk and reward is slightly better to me than the Bonk risk-reward ratio. Number 4, I have a coin that I think everyone knows, Pepe, probably the most legendary meme in terms of cultural weight and the amount of people who know about the meme. And I have 2 out of 10 here because it's the third biggest meme coin. So, you can't really get much less risky than Pepe, except for Dogecoin and potentially SHIB. So that's why it's 2 out of 10. It's also, one of the biggest ones, 3.5 billion. And for reward, I actually have 8 out of 10, which is very high relative to the market cap, because I believe this coin's actually very undervalued. 3.5 billion for being Pepe, which, is globally recognized all over the world. Almost the same level you could argue something like Dogecoin is. And look at the discrepancy in market cap, right? That's like an 8x, 7x difference. Sorry, like a 7x difference. And I believe that this is very undervalued relative to Dogecoin. And I have an $80 billion target, which is very good from here. It would basically be like a 25x, right? The numbers, I'm just making these numbers off the top of my head, so they might not be completely accurate, but it's around that. And basically, I think you're getting a really good deal on Pepe right now because you're getting a lot of reward with very little risk. So that's why it's number 4 on my list. For number 3, I have Brett, which is currently the top 10, the 10th biggest meme coin. And the reason I have it as third is because I feel like it has very high reward with minimal risk. So I have 3 out of 10 for risk because, it's top 10 coins, right? But also because it's the number one coin on Base. And Base has a lot of momentum and future growth. If I have a video on this specifically on Brett, but basically to give you an idea, Base has a lot of users because they have Coinbase distribution, and that allows them to get a ton of users, and those users are likely going to buy the number one coin on Base, which is Brett. So I think it has extremely high reward, right? I have a market cap of 35 billion as my target, currently at 500 million. So that's like a 75x, 80x, whatever that is. And I believe it also has minimal risk, right? So I think it's a very good risk reward ratio to have. And only a few coins, I believe, have better risk reward ratios than Brett. So next in the list is actually Farcoin, right? So this might be a bit of a surprise or something you didn't expect. So first of all, first I'll go over the risk aspect. 3 out of 10, same risk as Brett, which I think makes sense. It's higher market cap than Brett. It's like top 6 tokens, right? One of the biggest coins out there. And I believe it has not that much risk. People may think, Farcoin, it's such a stupid name. What if people just don't like it? It doesn't really have anything, it's so stupid. It can easily just go to zero. I actually disagree. I think, this idea of dumb coins actually is a huge market. If you look on pump.fun or, Dex Screener and you find new pairs, a lot of them are just very stupid things. And being the number one of this dumb category market is actually huge. And so much attention and retail money will go into this coin, which is why my target is 50 billion, which is very high. It's like a 50x from here. And I believe that 50 billion can be achieved with low risk, right? 3 out of 10, relatively low risk speaking. And I have a reward of 9.5 out of 10. And I believe this actually has a slightly higher reward than Pepe, it's only a little bit more risky than Pepe, but it has much higher reward in my opinion. So that's why it's number 2. And then finally for number 1, I have SPX 6900. And this might also be a controversial pick. By the way, this is just my opinion, so feel free to disagree. I'm open to hearing criticism and feedback in the comments section if you have any different ideas. But basically, I have this coin as number 1 because it has extremely high reward with minimal risk. So let's get into the risk element first. So I believe it's not that risky. Again, this is the same point I say over and over again, but it's one of the top tokens. I believe all these top tokens have relatively low risk. The higher the market cap, the lower the risk is basically a given. So that's why I have low risk in it. And I have high reward because and also low risk because the community is very large and present. You feel as though there's a lot of backing to the coin in terms of community and community involvement and the sheer amount of people in the coin. So that explains the risk element. And for reward, I have 10 out of 10. And I chose 10 out of 10 because I think this can actually be the number one meme coin this cycle. And I think it can be the number one meme coin this cycle because it has the highest price ceiling. I actually have a specific video, so you want to hear more about this coin, I have a specific video on that. But basically, it's the number one movement coin with the goal to flip the stock market, which is extremely high target, which creates an extremely high price ceiling, which can make the coin go very high. In addition to that, the community behind it mirrors BTC Energy's early days of extreme delusion and extreme passion for the coin, unlike any other coin I've ever seen on this list and in the whole market, right? This is a very special coin in my eyes, and I believe the community see it not just as a meme coin, but as a new form of asset and evolution of assets and investing that merges spirituality and finance together. Now, this is going a bit out of the realm of what this topic is about, of this video is about, but basically that's how I can explain that I have a 10 out of 10 reward. And if you want to hear more, I have a video on it specifically, as I've already mentioned. So overall, I think this is actually the best risk reward ratio pick right now, right? So it's basically at almost 500 million right now, and I believe a target cap of 75 billion is reasonable, which would be like 160x from here, right? Craziest return on this list with, less risk than a lot of these coins, like less risk than Dog, less risk than Giga, less risk than Lohei, right? Lower risk than Lohei with high reward. So that's why I have SPX here. And I said I'd show you a visual representation just so you can, kind of visualize it. So here we go. We have Dogecoin, low risk. This axis is risk, this one's reward. Low risk, but also like medium reward. Here we have high risk for Lohei, but also high reward. And then here we have my last 3 picks, which are Brett, Farcoin, SPX. And basically a way of looking at this is basically saying, you want to be owning the highest risk reward ratio. So for example, you can see Pepe and Giga are here at the same reward ratio, but Giga has higher risk than Pepe. So if you're deciding between Pepe and Giga, you should probably go with Pepe. And similar story, if we look at this diagonal, you have Dog and Pudgy with the same risk, but Dog has a higher reward than Pudgy Penguins. So you should probably buy Dog instead of Pudgy Penguins. And then same for these 4, right? Like you shouldn't, obviously this is just my opinion. I think I've already mentioned that, but you shouldn't buy Bonk if you could buy Brett, because it's the same risk, but you're getting more reward. And, I have SPX 900 at the very top, best risk reward ratio. So yeah, thanks for watching. These are just my opinions. Feel free to disagree in the comments. That's why the comment section is there. And if you like this video, subscribe for more.